the very first Power Awards event to be held on the floor of the cable television show. How's this for bringing the industry's premier public services right to the people? As an honoree last year, it's certainly wonderful to be back helping Cable Positive further their mission of ending the AIDS epidemic. The 2009 Power Awards are, for the first time, not raising funds for Cable Positive, but helping to raise a different kind of capital: visibility, awareness, and information. Maybe even more important than money at times. For more than 17 years, Cable Positive has led this industry's charge against HIV and AIDS as a public service of the cable television industry. The nonprofit organization has fostered partnerships between local AIDS organizations and cable outlets across the country through its Tony Cox Community Fund, raised money for drug programs around the globe through its One for One program, and most recently, just last week to be exact, with the support of funds from Motorola, staged the first ever Youth AIDS Media Institute. And they tell me they even have a word for that now called Yummy You. The Institute trained 17 young people on how to use this great medium to raise awareness about HIV/AIDS among their peers and other at-risk groups. These accomplishments couldn't have been done without the continued support of Cable Positive's many, many friends within the cable industry. We've been proud to remind policymakers this week that through Cable Positive, our industry has committed more than $1 billion on commercial airtime to raise awareness about HIV and AIDS. Cable Positive also has raised and contributed $18 million to assist 250 AIDS service organizations in 38 states. Today, however, we're here to honor two of the very best among us, extraordinary individuals who have used their power, positions, and passion to further the fight against HIV/AIDS. I have great pleasure now to introduce somebody who I feel is a friend of mine. I invite her into my home almost nightly. She's one of the brightest in the business. She was a Rhodes Scholar. Our host for the 2009 Power Awards. She's also a part-time host of MSNBC's The Rachel Maddow Show. I'd like to bring on Dr. Rachel Maddow.
Thank you very much. It is a real honor to have been asked to be here. I'm very flattered to have been asked to be here, and I'm very happy to be part of to be a new member of an industry that does this and that has this organization. It's my pleasure to be here today to both recognize leaders in the cable industry who fight HIV and AIDS and to raise much needed awareness surrounding the epidemic and to celebrate the accomplishments of the industry in fighting the epidemic. I'm proud to be a part of this profession. AIDS is an issue that is not only important to me just as an American now living in 2009, knowing what challenges we face, but it has been a formative issue in defining who I am and how I think about the world and how I've lived my life. As a gay kid growing up in the Bay Area in the 80s and 90s, I had a front row seat to the toll that was exacted by the epidemic, particularly in its early days. And I was very proud for well over a decade to call myself essentially a full-time AIDS activist and to be part of the AIDS activist movement, which is, I think, something that is unsung as yet in our American history in terms of Americans learning to take care of ourselves and each other and to get beyond the idea of victimhood in understanding. I'm having an impact that I didn't intend to have. Getting beyond victimhood and understanding not only the way to respond to communities in crisis, but to allow them to lead the rest of the country out of that crisis. Today we celebrate the passion of an industry that for over 17 years has been part of the fight against HIV. We celebrate the power of this medium that brings life-saving messages to the public, and we celebrate the people in the cable industry who are driving that effort. We celebrate all of you who give so much of your time and your talent and your resources to promote awareness about this, frankly, still new disease that has changed our lives and our politics and our country and the world, and that we are still learning how to cope with. I'm delighted to be with you today to present the Leadership Award to Neil Smit, President and CEO of Charter Communications. In every sense of the word, Neil has been a leader in this struggle, and not just because of his training as a Navy SEAL, which is very impressive. For the last 10 years, Charter has played a key role in the Tony Cox Community Fund, which is Cable Positive's most important community service initiative. One of Cable Positive's best-known programs, the Tony Cox Community Fund, targets messaging on AIDS awareness at local communities by fostering partnerships between the local cable systems and AIDS service organizations, which they leverage free airtime for AIDS nonprofits, which are far too often cash-strapped. Under Neil's leadership, Charter has committed significant airtime and production costs for this locally targeted programming in 6 states, reaching tens of thousands of people. These partnerships have resulted in successful World AIDS Day events and rural outreach programs that have helped get really vital educational messages about AIDS into local communities that otherwise wouldn't be getting them.